DeVault, an open source developer, and Brodie Robertson, a Linux-focused and open source YouTuber, have both been accused of distributing pornographic material depicting children, small children. There is a pattern here, and it doesn't stop with these two grown men. It extends throughout a huge portion of the open source and Linux world. It is gross. It is deeply, deeply disturbing. It is immoral, and it is, as far as I can tell, extraordinarily illegal. I want to walk you through a little bit of it now. Fair warning. I am not going to show any of the things that these gentlemen post. I will show you links where you can go and see reports that have, for the most part, been censored regarding them. So you can verify things for yourself. You don't have to take my word for anything we're about to talk about. But I want to go over this here. I just posted this up, a few thoughts up on X. I just want to read it to you now. There seems to be a frighteningly large number of people in open source who distribute and collect pornographic material depicting children. This is deeply disturbing. Two prominent examples have surfaced over the last year. The first one being DeVault. I covered that here just this last year. A prominent open source developer and activist. He distributed sexually explicit art depicting small children, including, and this is not, I'm not joking here, kindergartners, little kids. And published software. He developed and published open source software for cataloging pornographic material depicting children, for like tagging it and searching it and stuff like that. He was so into it, not only distributed it and collected it and talked about it, he wrote software for it. And then there's Brodie Robertson. Brodie Robertson is a YouTuber focusing on Linux. He's actually been on the Lunduke Journal once in the past. And Brodie Robertson, according to a report which looks to be legit, according to everybody, including according to Brodie, he supposedly had a blog where he published artwork, I'm going to air quotes here, artwork depicting naked children, and appeared to defend such pedophilia on multiple occasions. Now, these two men are not alone. A large number of open source programmers and leaders utilize sexualized drawings of underage children as their online avatars. Let that sink in for a moment. Grown men, adult, old, large men are using as their online avatars throughout the world of open source purposefully sexualized paintings, essentially, of little kids in provocative poses. This is disgusting. This is reprehensible to the extreme. And what makes this all even more disgusting and horrific than it already is that no open source organization, no project, no foundation, no corporation, to my knowledge, has objected to these illegal and deeply immoral activities. Deeply immoral. Absolutely horrific. If you'd like to check them out for yourself, the DeVault page is dmpwn.info. And the Brodie Robertson one is brodie-robertson.pages.dev. I should say that I have independently verified many of the details in those pages. It's difficult to go through a lot of it without without clicking through to too many things. So there's certain things I was not able to, or was not willing to verify. But what I was able to verify was deeply disturbing, horrific, illegal, and I don't know how either of them are not in jail. But I had no involvement in the creation of either of those pages. I don't know who's behind them. In fact, the Brodie Robertson page, whoever created it, also does not like me very much. Not because of any of this stuff. He criticized Brodie Robertson for having once gone on the Lunduke Journal show, because whoever created it views the Lunduke Journal as a Nazi fascist. So he criticized Brodie Robertson for coming on my show. So, so the word Lunduke shows up in the Brodie Robertson.pages.dev one. And of course, DeVault just talks about me a lot. So that's great. I want to read a statement here from Brodie. He posted this yesterday, May 3rd. He goes on, he says, quote, "This is the first time and last time I'll be addressing this post. About a year ago, some people started compiling a document of comments I made on Reddit from over 7 years ago and my old Tumblr blog. The following thread, I will address them. Yes, I used to make," he goes on to say, "a lot of racist comments and throw around slurs. Yes, I was homophobic. Yes, I was transphobic. At the time, I was absolutely a hateful person. This was a long time ago, and anyone who knows me now knows that I have changed since then. Do I still make jokes amongst my close friends? Absolutely. And that will likely never change. Yes, I took part in early Gamergate, and I was there from the very start when the focus was on ethics in games journalism. But it also resulted in many of the comments from the prior tweet. I mostly stepped away from politics discussions as I don't find it to be a healthy pastime for me to personally get involved in. I tend to obsess over things, and that can get quite destructive." He goes on to say, "Yes, I ran a hentai blog on Tumblr. Yes, I made comments saying that the UN should not get involved in censoring lolly content. I felt at the time that this would be a slippery slope. It seems in retrospect I was right, with some of that same discourse now being used on trans people," end quote. All right, I'm going to stop right there for a second. For those of you who don't know, that sort of content he's talking about is drawings and paintings of naked and sexualized little kids, like little kids, like underage children, minors, doing sexy stuff, and that's what he's talking about. So he's talked about, about supporting that and opposing anyone who would say you can't distribute kiddie porn in painting and drawing form. It's truly repulsive. What Brodie Robertson here is saying is disgusting beyond words. He goes on to say, quote, "Yes, I was absolutely porn-brained out of my mind as a late teenager and early 20s. Yes, I talked about the porn tags I liked publicly. Yes, I watch step-sibling porn. Yes, I hung out on sexting subreddits." Holy heavens, why talk about this stuff? "I feel like into my mid and late 20s, I've grown as a person, but that has only been possible thanks to people being willing to look past the past and see me for the person that I am now. As for the unimportant things, yes, I joke about being discount Luke Smith. If you go back and watch the early videos, you'd see it was literally just a copy of his style. I never actually actively avoided YouTube. I spin up accounts on every new platform that people are talking about. Yes, I said don't go and make issues on the Wayland repo in my name, not so that my name would not be included, but blah, 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 blah. Yes, I went on Lunduke's show, he says, with DistroTube. And if you watched it, you'd see I was constantly disagreeing with him as I continued to do so following that, when I quote tweet his posts. I think the only way you can change someone's mind is by having an open discourse with him. Yes, I've talked to Vaxry and Andreas Kling and Omarchi Linux and blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing. I don't care. I really don't care what a person does in the privacy of their own home. If they're doing something legal and between consenting, whatever, fine. But the moment we bring children into this, no. Straight up no. End of story, no. That's immoral. That's horrible. That is illegal. And that cannot ever, not even for a second, not even for a split second, be allowed or tolerated by anyone on the face of the earth. Period. You protect children. You do not exploit them for your own jollies. Ever. Not for pretensies. Not in animated form. Never. Unacceptable. Period. End of story. That's the only part of this that I care about. I don't care what political disagreement you had. I don't care who you had on your show. I don't care what you told people to do or not to do. I don't care about any of that. But this is not a one-off thing. This is not just Brodie Robertson. This is not just Drew DeVault. There is an overwhelming problem with sexualizing children, with hurting children throughout open source. Now, obviously, it's not everybody. Obviously. But it is pervasive. There is a lot of it. And what's really horrible is I've yet to see any open source organization speak out against it. Another great example. It's very different, but another interesting example along the same lines is Jeremy Beecha. Jeremy Beecha is a registered sex offender who was convicted of sexually assaulting small children. According to reports at the time, there were thousands of instances of such sexual abuse of small children. And he speaks at conferences. He's heavily involved in both Debian and the GNOME project. He is one of the release managers for GNOME. He's a leader of that project. He's a public spokesperson. He drafts release notes for many of the GNOME releases. At no point has Debian or GNOME or any other organization that has worked with this gentleman warned people about the threat that he faces to them or to children that he might be around. At no point have any of these organizations spoken out against the people spreading online child porn or being registered child sex offenders. At no point have any of these organizations, Red Hat, Debian, GNOME, any of them, spoken out against this stuff. Not ever. Not that I've ever seen. And it goes on and on and on. There's the Bazite Linux distribution. They make their whole mascot is a trans lesbian transgendered bisexual lesbian whatever cartoon specifically to appeal to children with little trans flags and lesbian bi colors and all sorts of things to attract children to it. The OpenSUSE Linux distribution said that anyone who didn't actively fly the trans flag was rotten flesh that needed to be cut out. This resulted in the project being almost dead at this point. They regularly run elections and there's no one left because they kicked out everyone who's normal. Microsoft, who hosts GitHub, the biggest open source source code repository on planet Earth, the hoster of GitHub has a specific policy of encouraging parents, employees that are parents, to have gender-affirming care for children as young as 3 years old. Let's sink in for a second. Sex changes for toddlers. Microsoft pays for it. The non-optional health program covers it. They have internal support groups at Microsoft to encourage parents to help their children, their 3-year-olds, get sex change operations. They're not only sexualizing children, they're abusing them to the utmost degree. None of these companies, none of these organizations have spoken out against this. And you go through Mastodon and forums and whatnot, and you see a nonstop flood of open source developers and testers and leaders in many cases using as their online avatar, again, sexualized images of naked, half naked, and otherwise kind of sexualized drawings of little kids. No one says anything. No tech reporters will cover it. No open source organizations will distance themselves from it or say, no, you can't do that. Nothing. It's twisted. So here we are. I've been covering some of these topics for a couple of years now. It's not going away. It's deeply disturbing. Right about now is where I plug my show and say, hey, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't feel right to do that on this episode. It's deeply disturbing. It's deeply disturbing. I want to make this clear. If any people that I've named today, if any companies, organizations, or projects that I've named today feel that I in any way have misrepresented what they have done, or the stances they've taken, or the actions they've taken, or their statements, something, say so. Reach out to me. I would gladly publish whatever statement you make. This is to the best of my knowledge, every word I've said is accurate here today. I don't know really what to do about it. Now, a lot of these people aren't in the United States. A lot of these people are in a variety of different countries. And I don't know what the laws are in various countries. But regardless of the law, what's been done is deeply wrong. Not kids. And that's all for today.